Newcastle United's transfer window is moving differently. So from Fabrizio Romano revealing Newcastle's newest signing, to Newcastle's move for Yohan Manzambi being hijacked,
Here we go again.
to Newcastle making Zion Suzuki contact as goalkeeper search continues. We'll also reveal Newcastle's latest fullback target. As per, join us as we'll break it all down and discuss the latest Newcastle United transfer news.
Let's go!
So starting off, Newcastle United's summer recruitment strategy is becoming increasingly clear, and the latest deal reportedly agreed by the club fits perfectly into that vision. According to Fabrizio Romano, Newcastle have reached an agreement to sign Arsenal youngster Kieran Thompson, with the England under-17 winger set to join the Magpies after leaving Arsenal as a free agent. While the move is unlikely to generate the same excitement as a major first-team signing, it is another indication of the direction Newcastle's recruitment department is taking under the club's new approach. This is not a coincidence. Following the departures of Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali, Newcastle have invested heavily in youth and potential rather than immediately chasing established stars. The arrivals of Basumana Toure, Sean Stoyer and Ewan Yawan have already highlighted that strategy, and Thompson appears to be the latest addition to that growing collection of elite young talent. What makes the signing particularly encouraging is the level of competition Newcastle reportedly overcame. Arsenal are not known for allowing their best academy prospects to leave lightly, and several clubs were understood to be monitoring Thompson's situation. The fact Newcastle have managed to convince him that his pathway is better on Tyneside than elsewhere speaks positively about the project being presented behind the scenes. Of course, expectations should remain realistic. At 17 years old, Thompson is not arriving to replace Anthony Gordon or immediately compete for a starting role in Eddie Howe's first team. His development will almost certainly continue through the academy and development squads before any senior opportunities emerge. That said, these are exactly the types of signings Newcastle need to make. The club's long-term ambition cannot rely solely on spending £50 to £100 million every time a position needs strengthening. Successful clubs consistently identify elite young talent before their value explodes, develop them internally, and either integrate them into the first team or create valuable assets for the future. In that respect, Thompson fits the profile perfectly. The larger question surrounding Newcastle's summer remains unchanged, however. While signing exciting prospects is important, Newcastle also need immediate quality. Replacing players of Gordon and Tonali's caliber cannot be achieved purely through potential. Basumana Toure, Sean Stoyer, and now potentially Thompson all possess huge upside, but expecting teenagers and young players to instantly carry a Premier League side would be unfair and unrealistic. That is why the next phase of Newcastle's transfer window feels crucial. The academy and development pipeline is clearly being strengthened, but Eddie Howe still needs proven performers capable of stepping straight into the starting 11. Kieran Thompson looks like another smart investment for the future. The challenge now is ensuring Newcastle balance those long-term plans with the short-term demands of returning to the upper reaches of the Premier League table. The future may be getting brighter, but Newcastle still need players who can deliver results right now. However, in another development, just when it looked as though Newcastle United were finally closing in on one of their priority midfield targets, Yohan Manzambi's future appears to have taken another dramatic twist. For weeks, Newcastle had been viewed as the front-runners for the Swiss international. Reports suggested that a verbal agreement had been reached with Freiburg, and there was growing confidence that once Switzerland's World Cup campaign ended, the deal would move quickly towards completion. Instead, Aston Villa have stormed into the picture. According to both David Ornstein and Luke Edwards, Villa have accelerated their pursuit of Manzambi and are now in a strong position to secure his signature. The key detail is that while Newcastle had progressed discussions with Freiburg, the player himself had not yet committed to the move. That hesitation appears to have opened the door. Ornstein reports that Villa's interest intensified following the serious injury suffered by Amadou Onana, prompting Unai Emery's side to move aggressively. Crucially, Manzambi is now believed to favour a move to Villa Park. If true, that is a significant setback for Newcastle, not because they have lost out on a completed deal, but because it follows a worrying pattern that has emerged throughout the summer. Victor Munoz looked destined for Tyneside before Liverpool stepped in at the last moment. Now Manzambi, another highly rated young talent, appears to be slipping away after Newcastle had spent weeks laying the groundwork for a transfer. The uncomfortable reality is that Newcastle's negotiating position is not what it was 2 years ago. Players can see that the club missed out on European qualification. They can see that Anthony Gordon has already departed and that Sandro Tonali was sold for £100 million. They can also see uncertainty surrounding the futures of several other key players. Meanwhile, clubs like Aston Villa can offer European football immediately. For a young player looking to take the next step in his career, that matters. It is tempting to look for somebody to blame whenever a transfer falls apart. We saw it after the Victor Munoz situation, with fingers pointed at Eddie Howe, Ross Wilson, and almost everyone else involved in recruitment. The truth is usually far less dramatic. Newcastle can identify targets, negotiate fees, and present a project, but ultimately players make their own decisions. If a club competing in Europe presents an equally attractive financial package and sporting pathway, Newcastle are going to lose some of those battles. That does not mean the recruitment strategy is failing. In fact, Luke Edwards' suggestion that Newcastle have been working on alternative midfield targets since Friday indicates that the club anticipated this possibility. Good recruitment departments prepare for setbacks rather than assuming every deal will go through. The bigger concern is perception. Missing out on one target can happen to any club. Missing out on multiple priority targets in the same window starts to create questions about Newcastle's ability to convert interest into signings. That is why the coming weeks feel so important. The arrivals of Sean Sturr and Bazumana Tour have provided encouragement, but Newcastle still need more first-team quality. If Manzambi joins Aston Villa, attention will immediately turn to who Ross Wilson and Eddie Howe pursue next. The summer is far from over, but there is no denying that losing Manzambi after appearing to hold a strong position would be another painful reminder of how quickly the transfer market can change. For Newcastle, the response now matters more than the disappointment. The best recruitment teams do not dwell on the players they miss. They move quickly and find the next one. Then the links between Newcastle United and Neco Williams refuse to disappear, and there are good reasons why Eddie Howe's recruitment team continue to keep a close eye on the Nottingham Forest defender. According to BBC Sports' Sami Mokbel, both Newcastle and Manchester United are interested in Williams, although Nottingham Forest remain confident they can convince the Wales international to sign a new contract despite already having 3 years remaining on his current deal. That confidence from Forest is understandable. Williams is one of the most versatile fullbacks in the Premier League. Comfortable on either flank, he offers exactly the type of flexibility Newcastle currently lack within their squad. The need for reinforcements at full-back has become increasingly obvious. Lewis Hall enjoyed an outstanding season and looks set to remain Newcastle's long-term first-choice left-back, but there are very few natural alternatives behind him. On the opposite side, Tyno remains one of the club's most important players, yet his injury record means Newcastle cannot afford to rely solely on him over the course of an entire campaign. That is where Williams becomes an attractive option. Unlike many of the younger talents Newcastle have targeted this summer, Williams would arrive with extensive Premier League experience and an immediate understanding of the demands of English football. He would not need a lengthy adaptation period and could realistically provide cover for both Hall and Livramento from day one. From a tactical perspective, that versatility carries enormous value. Rather than spending money on two separate backup fullbacks, Newcastle could effectively solve both issues with one signing. The challenge, however, will be convincing Nottingham Forest to sell. Forest are under no financial pressure. Williams remains under contract for several years, and the club clearly view him as an important part of their future plans. With interest also emerging from Manchester United, Forest are unlikely to entertain offers unless they are substantial. That could make any deal expensive. Buying proven Premier League players has never been cheap, and Newcastle may find themselves facing a situation where the asking price exceeds what they consider reasonable for a player who would initially arrive as a squad option rather than a guaranteed starter. Even so, this feels like one of the more logical transfer links involving Newcastle this summer. There is a clear positional need. The player fits Howe's profile, and the interest has been reported by a highly credible source. Whether Newcastle decide to push forward may ultimately depend on the price Forest demand, and how much of their budget remains after pursuing other priorities such as Yohan Manzambi and further midfield reinforcements. For now, Williams remains a name worth watching closely. He may not generate the same excitement as some of Newcastle's younger attacking targets, but smart squad building often depends on reliable, versatile players who can perform multiple roles at a high level. Neco Williams certainly fits that description. Then, Newcastle United's search for a new first-choice goalkeeper appears to be widening, with Parma and Japan international Zion Suzuki emerging as the latest name on the club's shortlist. The Magpies have already strengthened their goalkeeping department this summer by signing France under-21 international Yuan Yaowen, but the expectation remains that the young Frenchman will serve as deputy rather than immediately becoming Newcastle's number one. That leaves a significant decision for Eddie Howe and the recruitment team. James Trafford has long been viewed as Newcastle's preferred option, with the club having attempted to sign him on more than one occasion. However, with Trafford yet to make a decision on his future, Newcastle are sensibly exploring alternative targets rather than waiting indefinitely. According to transfer journalist Matteo Moretto, Newcastle have now made inquiries about Zion Suzuki and his situation at Parma Calcio. The 23-year-old goalkeeper enhanced his growing reputation during the World Cup, producing a series of impressive performances for Japan. His athleticism, shot-stopping ability and composure under pressure caught the attention of many observers, and it is easy to understand why Newcastle would view him as a suitable fit for their long-term strategy. Importantly, Suzuki also fits the age profile Newcastle have increasingly targeted in recent transfer windows. At 23, he is young enough to develop further but experienced enough to step into a starting role immediately. Parma, however, are reportedly in no rush to sell. Moretto suggests the Italian club are prepared to listen to offers, but intend to maximize their position by waiting for the strongest proposal. With several clubs monitoring Suzuki, Newcastle could face significant competition if they decide to pursue the deal seriously. From a Newcastle perspective, that creates an interesting dilemma. If Trafford remains the priority target, the club may be reluctant to move aggressively for Suzuki until they know where they stand. But waiting too long could allow another club to secure one of Europe's most promising young goalkeepers. Among the alternatives currently linked with Newcastle, Suzuki arguably offers one of the most intriguing combinations of immediate quality and future potential. Bart Verbruggen would likely be more difficult to prize away from Brighton, while Robin Rissa remains less proven at the highest level. Suzuki sits somewhere in the middle, already performing at a high level while still possessing considerable room for growth. At this stage, there is no indication that Newcastle are preparing a formal bid. The situation appears to be at the inquiry stage, with the club gathering information while continuing to assess several goalkeeper options. Still, if Newcastle decide to accelerate their interest, many supporters would likely welcome the move. After his performances for Japan and his continued development in Italy, Zion Suzuki looks every bit like a goalkeeper capable of becoming a long-term Premier League number one.